welcome to Ouroboros Automotive. My name is Logan, and today what we're going to be doing is testing some of the things that I have found on Instagram and YouTube channels, and as well as TikTok. Today what we're going to be trying is to do aluminum welding using aluminum rod and propane. And I've got a couple of small sheets of aluminum over here that I can't tell you how much it costs, because in reality the giant roll of it was found on the side of a highway from something that came out of somebody's truck. So the reason why I'm trying to do this is because I'm going to use the aluminum to make an overhead console for my XJ. But I'm not entirely sure if this is going to work. And I've seen some success in here and there and different things, but we're going to give it a go and see if it's actually capable. I've never done this. I'm decent at soldering. I'm completely crap at welding, but we're gonna see if this is possible for somebody that has like pretty much zero experience. So if this fails, it fails. If it succeeds, awesome. If it does fail, I'm gonna try to figure out why it failed and see if I can figure out how to actually achieve this. But enough with me talking, let's get into it. All right, so as you can see, I have the aluminum put into my vise with just one of my plastic clamps holding down this other piece. In theory, the aluminum should absorb the heat before the vise does, so we should be able to have the aluminum heat up to the point where we can actually attempt this welding, but we shall see. This aluminum weld rods that I got are actually from Harbor Freight, so they were rather inexpensive, mainly because I wanted to see if this would actually work. And I didn't want to spend a ton of money on something that might not work. So the basic theory about welding is that you're going to heat up both components, and you're going to use this rod in order to actually fill the spacing here and fill the gap. It's not really like, you don't want them completely flush from what I understand. You want a small gap so that you can try to fill that in order to make the two items become one. So let's try heating this thing up. All right, so the current issue I'm having is it seems like I can't get the aluminum hot enough in order to actually start taking the welding stick. And it might be because I'm leaching heat onto the vise, but I'm not entirely sure. So I'm gonna move over closer to this edge. All right. As you can see, this is insanely gross and disgusting. It doesn't look like I was able to heat it up enough. And again, I'm not entirely sure if that's because it's in the vise and the metal of the vise is trying to soak up the heat from the propane, or if the propane is just not hot enough. So what I'm going to do is let it cool down, see if we had any penetration right here in the corner, because it looks like right here in the corner we might have had a little bit of penetration, and it looks decent, but we'll let it cool, see what happens, and see if I just need to adjust this metal further away from the vise so that I can try to just heat these two components. All right. All right, so here we go. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to undo my vise and take this thing out. All right, don't judge me based upon how terrible the cuts are on this thing, because it was just a quick thing. But as you can see, right along here, we actually did get penetration. It did come through. Over here, further over, I mean, that's where that big blob is. There is no penetration, but I mean, that first step right there, this first area, ain't looking too terribly. I mean, she seems to be on there. Huh. Alright, cool. So why don't we flip it around now that it's mildly secured to itself. Try to line this up again. And see if maybe we can heat this thing up some more and maybe get a good fill in it. Alright, we're going to give this a go again. As you can see, I've stepped further away from the vise, hoping that maybe that's going to change how much heat we have. I'm just going to have to be a little bit more careful because I won't be able to really like push on it at all. Maybe I want to clamp that. Nope, not with that one. Bigger clamp. Bigger clamp. Nope, not with that one either. Alright, cool. Like I said, we're just going to deal with it the way that it is, and we'll go about it that way. Ooh. Wait, let's see how thin it is. Ha! That'll hold it in place. I picked up this magnet from Harbor Freight because in case I wanted to do anything like this. Ha ha! But we're going to try to push those things together. Since I am doing this in my house, I do have a fire extinguisher, and right underneath here is an aluminum pan to catch anything that falls through here will be caught in there before hitting my floor. So let's give it a go. Okay, as you can see, this actually turned out a lot better than the previous run did, and I'm guessing that's because I was able to get it away from the vise, which I believe was leaching a lot of the heat. I did have some issues right about here where it looks like I may have burnt through the aluminum. I'm having issues with my propane tank where I'm just either the regulator's messed up or I'm just running out of propane. More than likely I'm just running out of propane. But as you can see, it did hit that gap. I guess the big question now is whether or not I actually had penetration through any of this. Obviously right here I was still kind of having issues. What I was finding was that instead of starting at the end and like walking it, I probably should have started at this end and like traveled down. But that's how it ended up, with a lot of pooling right here. Similar to when you're soldering. If you stay in one place with too much solder, or when you get to the end of a line and you put too much solder down onto your gun or onto your wiring, you end up with this giant pool of just nastiness. So let's put on some gloves, let's break this thing out of the vise, and let's see how we did. Huh, yeah, I definitely burnt through right there. And as you can see, I had some penetration here. Some of it came through, but not a lot. I mean, it's also a pretty substantial gap from what I was doing. And I mean, it's not breaking away. It's not tearing away. So I guess it is actually viable. Obviously I broke away a little bit towards the end right there, but that might have just been not having enough heat or not cleaning this thing enough. Again, I did this in like the worst circumstances where I've never done this. I didn't really clean the aluminum. I'm using alumiweld rods from Harbor Freight, and my propane's almost empty. So with all of those things and all of those different variables in mind, this actually turned out fairly well. Well, there you have it. It's not the best looking, and I did have some issues here and there, but this is completely viable and relatively simple. I mean, in all honesty, just took it slow and kind of went at it a little bit at a time. So I guess we're gonna use this and see what we can get at. I am gonna have to try to figure out a way to better hold this down and hold the pieces in place while also not completely leaching away any of the heat, but as well as obviously way too much burn where I ended up sacrificing some of the metal. You can actually see cracking in it from where the metal just started. Like, I just had it way too hot. But all in all, I'm impressed and I'm happy with it. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me this week. Again, check out my Facebook page, my Instagrams. Obviously, we're going to be using this in order to make some modifications to the Jeep XJ. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll continue to do small things that I find on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, and see how well it goes, and see if it's actually possible to do a lot of these things where it's like DIY, beginners only, and stuff like that. I can give that kind of stuff a go and see how it turns out. Obviously, this one turned out decent. You're gonna definitely need some practice, or I'm gonna need some practice on this, but it's viable, and I think I can do something with this. Well, not this in particular, but yeah. So thanks again for joining me this week. You guys are awesome, and I will see you guys back here in another week. Bye.